Okay, hello everybody. It's a great pleasure to come to this conference. I'm also very pleased that Seafront Tower, our current global headquarters of Tencent, has been recognized as an Asia and Australasia finalist in the CTBUH 2018 awards program. This project started 8 years ago and took more than 7 years to complete and put into use. As the design manager for the owner, we are very clear that this is a completely different from the ordinary real estate developers of the project. The project is not so much an office building as we think of it as our Tencent home. The amount of energy and time invested in it was far greater than the building of an ordinary office building. Before I talk about the motivation of the big picture behind the project, I would like to give you a brief company overview of the Tencent, so that you can imagine the kind of company we are building headquarters for. Founded in 1998, November, Tencent is the leading provider of internet value-added services in China. And in January 2015, Internet Plus concept proposed by Ponima was included in the National Strategy Report. As of March 2018, market value of Tencent has been one of the top 3 internet companies in the world. The company's business consists of 7 business groups, providing users a comprehensive range of the internet products and services. Connecting everything is one of our corporate strategies. To date, the company has more than 39,000 employees, 41% of whom are R&D staff, and the average age of the staff is less than 31 years old. This is a huge but very young technology company. What kind of the headquarters and home does such a company need? We apply the product thinking of the Internet of Building management. Building is a product, and the employees are users. That providing the best experience to the users is our goal. First of all, we need to meet the management philosophy of the company to provide a good working environment for employees. This is our old headquarters, Tencent Tower, complete in 2008, designed for 4,000 people. But by the time when we moved in, this tower could no longer meet the company's demand for office space for its employees. At that time, the number of the employees doubled to more than 10,000 people. We urgently needed to build a new headquarters buildings with a capacity of 10,000 people. Tencent regards its employees as its most valuable wealth. We hope to not only create a best office space for our employees, but also provide a variety of space for dining, sports, learning, and so on. Secondly, reflect the social corporate responsibility. We are well aware that the larger the enterprise, the greater the responsibility. Tencent has been committed to environment protection. We also hope to implement the green, energy-saving, environmental protection concept to our projects. We hope to build the tower into a green building, not only to obtain the National Green 2-Star logo and the International LEED Gold certification, but also to obtain the corresponding certification in the future of operation. Finally, as an internet company, we prefer to apply the company's all-connected and Internet Plus strategy to the architecture. We want Seafront Tower to be an intelligent building and want to make use of the company's own technology to provide more effective solutions for the building. We have deployed intelligent conference system, intelligent security system, intelligent lighting system, intelligent energy management system, intelligent parking system, and so on in the building. And at the same time, we set up a WeLink intelligence platform, which integrates all intelligent systems into one platform. This platform realizes the connection between people and things and things in the building, and carries on the information exchange and the communication between them, which reflecting the strategy of connecting everything. On this platform, there are our company's major business lines of internet products, including QQ from SNG, YouTube face recognition technology, QQ TV, WeChat intelligence, MIG indoor precise positioning technology, QK certification, TEG security platform, and so on. The Seafront Tower provides a suitable application scenario for the company's products and has become the largest testing ground for our company's internet products. Seafront Tower was produced in this context with the cultural characteristics of the Tencent, with the logic of internet products, respect for users, respect for energy conservation and environmental protection, reflection the progress of technology. As you know, we have more than 39,000 staff when Seafront Tower completed. We need more office space, and we will have lots of other projects under construction and will be built. Above thoughts and visions will also be implemented in the future projects. We also hope that more architects will participate in our future project construction. Thanks to NBBJ, Local Design Institute, Tongji University Institute, and all other design consultants for making our vision come true in Seafront Tower. Following will be a detailed design approach introduced by Jonathan Ward, design partner of NBBJ.
Thank you. So, just to reflect briefly, we spent, better part of the past 9 years working on this project, and it's an amazing collaborative experience with Jiang Ling and her team, with TJA, to sit in Shenzhen for many, many months to create this building together. And I think that's the spirit of what we're trying to do here. This paradigm shift is at the base of all of this, thinking about connectivity. Jiang Ling talked about connectivity, connecting people, and we started very early on thinking about how to create a building that really truly connects people, which most tall buildings don't do a very good job at. And we thought about where office is going and workplace is going. It's becoming much more social, and it's less about people sitting in a bunch of seats, typing away and coding away and all those sorts of things. But it's getting people to connect and interact and create real meaningful innovation, shifting from one to the other. It's amazing to me that how many companies still work on the left paradigm, which is also head-scratching, and where many of the more innovative companies are going more towards the right, which is more of a social, interactive, community-based work environment. So if we can create a building that actually does that, and if we can explode typical building typologies to actually create that sort of interaction, because the high-rise building is the prime culprit of non-interactive tissue space, where nobody can see each other, nobody can connect with each other. That's a challenge everybody in this room faces, is how to actually get people to interact and talk to one another. And create in a creative company like Tencent, to allow them to get the best out of their people, we have to explode these paradigms and move more towards, from left to right again, the very pure form, which is economic. A lot of people talk today about economics and economic-driven forms, but how do you move from one to the other to something that's more about community-based, more about green, more about people. So that was really the underlying kind of thinking about this particular project. So if we go deeper into it, we spent, as we said, a lot of time getting into, before we did anything, before we created this sketch, before we created the actual building, trying to understand what Tencent was all about. And the building was really truly designed from the inside out, trying to understand their culture. Jiang Ling talked a lot about building the project from culture. So we've spent time in their offices, many months, trying to understand, talk about what they're trying to do, where they're coming from, where they're going. And what the sort of the spirit is, the character, the humor, the connectivity, bringing people together, what that all means, and capturing that somehow. At the same time, understanding what their business is, which is one of the world's largest internet connectors. And this talks about the cloud. It's the people that make that happen. It's bringing the people in the world together, and that became a very big inspiration. We went through a very aggressive competition phase, which was 2 phases, where we finally won the project through ending up with this particular scheme, and I'll explain to you what this is all about. But we started very early on. We had a sociologist on our team looking at what they're all about, how they work internally, and how they're then perceived in the marketplace, and how those connect. And what we found oftentimes, it's kind of the same. It's the same people working there, same people using the product. That's expanded actually a lot in the past 9 years, but this is where we were at the beginning. So we started to look for creating spaces around understanding the product, understanding connection of people, and then moving from there out. And that led to this idea that, well, okay, we could build the building on the left, which would be easy. It'd be a big giant tower with super efficient floor plates and all this stuff at the bottom where you don't have the lifting issues and egress issues, and it's really simple. But then if we pull it apart, suddenly you can see each other, and that's a really important thing. And it was mentioned in the last presentation, the importance of actually visually connecting people in a tower. If we link it together, that's nice, so then you can have some way to move across. But we found often just a bridge link isn't very meaningful. It's just a bridge link and nobody really uses it. So we took all the program from the podium and we moved it up into the towers to create real meaningful connections between those towers. And that resulted in this idea of the vertical campus. And I had remembered when we first went out to the site in Nanshan in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is the melting pot of China, which is an amazing city. They talked a lot about, wow, we would love to have a campus. But building a big sprawling campus in Shenzhen with the land prices in Shenzhen, of course, would be impossible with those costs, at least in this part of Nanshan, right by the university. So as we went through the process of understanding their culture, we ended up with this idea of the vertical campus, where we can, again, explode the typology, explode the building typology to get something very marvelous and wonderful to happen inside the building. And then the final sort of location of pieces led to this thinking about these links. So the 2 towers, we split them into 2 towers so you can see each other. We've created these links, 3 links, and they're all very meaningful, and that the bottom is a culture link. And that has a program which is sort of semi-public, semi-private. So there's things where you bring the public in, you bring them out, and you're linking the 2 towers together. We then created a health link in the heart of the building. The heart of the building is the health of your employees. So there's a basketball court, there's a running track that connects the 2 towers. There's food, there's nourishment, and there's also meeting spaces and connection spaces. And then the top is the knowledge link, which is the brain, where we have Tencent University, conferencing centers, and all those sorts of things. And that, in essence, creates this overall campus. And we spent a lot of time trying to bring those nodes together so that those are, in a way, forced connection points. So people are forced to cross paths in those areas. At the same time, in splitting the towers, we very consciously lifted up the south tower, and we made it quite a bit broader than the north tower for the simple effect of shading the north tower. So really doing very simple things with the massing to allow it to do more than just one thing, and allow the form of the building to come out again from the inside of those links in that vertical campus, and from the idea of shading in this very hot climate of Shenzhen. And then we split it open to capture the prevailing winds and funnel them into the building in the center. And you can see a quick site plan, how that cracks open on the site. We spent a lot of time working with Arup on the vertical transportation to figure out how we can get those links to be activated. So you have to go them, you cross paths, you're going to grab a juice, you're going to go down, you're going to go up, and those become true centers and quads of the vertical campus. And thinking about it like a transportation system. So what's the transportation system for the high-rise of the future? What's the transportation for Tencent's headquarters was a lot of the conversation that we went through to get the right kind of movement flow to activate the building. And this is a view of the building as you sort of rise up. And another amazing thing, which is that this entire area around here was just dirt when I first went to visit it. This whole technology district has grown up around it. And Tencent's building sits at the anchor point. And it's, I think, interesting that it expresses itself in a way it's very strong, but it's also very, very connected in a way. It's very strong, but it's also very different. It's been broken open from the typology of the closed tower has suddenly been broken open. It's embracing, it's welcoming. So it's, I think, a really important character that we tried to capture. And we tried to create a softness to the building, even though it's these very strong forms and this very sort of, strong character of connectivity, but then the skin itself becomes almost cloud-like as you go around it. A quick tour up through the building. Should note that this interesting thing about the framework that we created, the strategy then was within the framework on the interiors, there's multiple firms that then came in and worked on different parts of this campus. So the campus on the inside would have different characteristic as you move through it. So rather than this sort of singular character, it has this very diverse, multiple characters as you move through it. The two towers shifted to the bottom with an open flowing central lobby at the base. This is the lobby as you come in. Seamless connection from inside out, and then up through the skylight above all the way to the tower. So when you're in the lobby, you see Tencent. You see them inside, outside, and up. So it's, again, constantly trying to get people to see one another and connect to one another. As we move up into the culture link, again, that's the first bridge which then links through and connects the two towers. There's a cantilevered auditorium on one side, and then there's a canteen cafeteria on the other side. So this is a very high flow center part of the whole the vertical campus. Again, picture, many of these spaces have just recently been finished, the auditorium. The typical office is we try to create something very simple. We offset the core so that we have a very clean, open workspace, and then we have a more sort of, tight and dynamic space facing one another between the towers for conferencing and connections. The window wall itself then becomes a receiver for people to connect and to work together, becomes a room in a way inside the room. Each two floors are connected vertically as you move through the tower, again, to get people to move, get people to connect, get the flow of ideas going. In the health link, we have this big basketball court, all hands space that is the center of the entire campus, around which is, restaurants, cafes, juice bars, other sort of functions. Just a picture of the lifting of those bridges, which is a very exciting part of the process. This running track connects the two towers through on this level. And if we go up to the knowledge link, also has this sort of central space which links everybody together and allows you to view up into the rest of the tower. And on top of each one of those links are gardens. So back to the idea of green space, both from promoting innovation and connectivity to nature for the brain development, but also cooling the building as it sits in the city. A few of those spaces as you move up. And the last thing I want to talk about briefly was the facade. So this idea of this cloud, we originally had a model which had a whole bunch of pins in it, and it was this sort of cloudy, fuzzy thing on top of this very clean form. That stuck with us is the idea of to create somehow something soft, but that softness can do something useful. So we thought, well, if we like the big tower on the south is shading the north tower, why not just let this cloud facade start to soften the energy loads? So we can lean out the south facade in these two-story pieces, which we worked closely with Thornton Tomasetti to develop the reality of this facade. And that then allows us to get about 26% energy saving just by using our computational model to get it just to be the right angle for the energy savings, but something that's cost effective at the same time. And you can see how that starts to play out on that south facade in that sort of very unique textured form. East, west, and north, because in Shenzhen the sun will come around in the west to the north. We then shift all the planes of glass this way to reduce the heat gain. That gets us, some pretty significant gains as well. Annually, reducing 38% of the solar input. So that's bringing it down significantly in overall sort of energy costs. And the result, again, is this sort of softening of the typical tower, the softening with meaning, the softening with purpose. The expression of multiplicity inside the tower as well is very important. And some final views of the links that reach and connect these soft towers. The big windows at the ends of the links looking out to the world are a very important part of the overall strategy. And then the glass in between the towers is as sheer and as open and clear as possible to promote the connection between people. So each one of these moves was done very specifically, working with Tencent and TJA to create something that's very, very purposeful, and the form becomes very purposeful. And as we move out to the city, we see a tower that is diverse, it's open, it's connected at the same time, in the midst of sea of essentially boxes. So it's saying something very different about how to connect people, how Tencent is connecting people, and how a tower typology can then transform itself. Again, moving out, a sea of boxes, and then suddenly this is opening up and creating a different sort of paradigm shift. And if we move out again, this conversation is happening. The tower is actually having a conversation in the city and with the city as it moves out. And at nighttime, it starts to change its character and starts to change its vibrancy. And the links come to life at nighttime as they link the tower together. And finally, the view out to the world past that cloudy facade tells us something about the purpose of this headquarters as a way to help push Tencent further in what their mission is, and help to push the typology of the tower further into a place where people can interact in a way that's meaningful and inspiring and powerful. And everything in the design is done for that purpose. There's nothing really whimsical about the design. What I think is interesting is how do you create a design which is purposeful for your business and for your future. Thank you.